Hey Jesse, how's it going? Thanks for being the first person to actually talk with us. We've tried a couple other people, at least one who, because you've gotten on here, you'll encourage more conversation.
Yeah, hopefully. So
We just
what's kind
want to
of
talk to
the
Masters Academy people and see what's changed because a lot has changed for me and him, me and Ian.
yeah.
And probably Eric too, but not probably as much as Jordan and I. Hey, Academy Talks is now live. I thought I had something important pop up on my phone.
Woohoo.
What have you been up to the last couple of years?
Yeah. Well, I've been working at UCF in a really cool job where I'm captioning lectures for deaf students. So it basically takes me to every one of their classes and get to get a bunch of free education
Nice.
while I get paid doing it. So I am in the Ivory Elite Tower for the majority of my day, every day.
Uh, what's fake ivory? Plastic? I wouldn't necessarily call UCF Ivory League.
Well, we're getting there.
I wouldn't even put it on Ivy League. Or you said Ivory. Yeah, no, it's not even
Ivory,
Ivy.
Ivy,
Yeah,
they're both kind of the same thing, right?
yes. I wouldn't even put it in the Ivy League of the South.
No, it's
It's
not,
getting better.
but it is getting better. And
No, it's not a bad school, but yeah, I've had people make fun of me for going there. Like, it's a college education.
right, right. Yeah, for sure. And so I've been working there for about 7 years, and what I've learned is what Socrates says, which is that I don't know anything. And as far as you move forward, knowing that you don't know anything and you're just learning the whole time, then it really helps you broaden your horizons in a sense.
Yeah. So your chair makes it look like you have cat ears.
Oh yeah, my
Hello.
I'll sit up.
Nice.
I'm surprised Jeanette and I do not own a pair of kawaii cat ears.
Yeah.
So do you, I know you and me were in Bible quiz together. Do you still do anything with that?
Yeah, I'm still in touch with Matt, and he will occasionally recruit me to do the quiz mastering for elementary students at TMA. So I've been doing that fairly regularly, not like an official thing or anything, but he'll text me and say that he needs someone. So I don't mind going down and doing that. It was funny. They got me to do. Matt texted me like one evening was like, "Hey, did you ever learn this in Hebrews or whatever?" I'm like, "I think I did." And he's like, "Hey, do a quiz with this other student." So I was feeling kind of impulsive, so I went down there and did it. And nothing really came back, but I managed to do okay. So that's my like sports thing where it's like that was the one thing I was good at. So I always try to relive those glory days.
I mean, yeah, then Jordan. Were you on our Bible quiz teams at church, Jordan?
I did. It was Bible Bowl. Bible quiz is a lot more memorization.
I don't know. We did a lot of memorizing for Bible quizzing, Bible Bowl. And then some of the kids.
I think
What's the difference between the two? I know what quizzing is, obviously.
Bible Bowl was odd.
It's kind of like Jeopardy, basically.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't have to form your answers in the form of a question or anything, but you were asked to basically general trivia from the Bible. It's like a college knowledge bowl based on the Bible. So you would actually get penalized for memorizing too much in the sense that if they asked you for a specific thing and you started quoting like chapter and verse around it, trying to fish for the right answer, they's like, no, you're fishing. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, that was the same thing with quizzing too, where you could give too much information. But
Yeah.
I always thought that quizzing kind of missed the forest for the trees a little bit. It was like, it was very specific, pinpoint questions about like specific verses and who was mentioned in that verse or what happened, not like general like, what did Jesus talk about in this? You know, it was like very specific.
Yeah, it's like just trivia, basically. I wonder how many of those kids grew up to be trivia junkies at bars.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate trivia, by the way.
I love trivia.
Go ahead.
I don't do much of it. I don't like hanging out in bars too much.
Yeah.
It costs too much money, especially in the dive bars where people are smoking and just.
Yeah. I find it so arbitrary though. Like at least with quizzing, I could study something, and then the amount of work that I put into it was reflected in how well I did. With just general trivia, what are you supposed to like? Just read Wikipedia? Like, what are you supposed to even do?
Well, normally they would limit it to like sports trivia or history trivia.
Yeah.
But it's just like who's ends up being the most well read. I think we're going down rabbit trails and
that's my bad.
As far as like how the people are doing now, how many of us went on to college? So who are we? Oh,
buddy.
Yeah. Thought you said you were done with the glitches.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think I can't get a complete sentence out of you guys, so I'm trying to fill in the blanks.
No. Yeah, because your video keeps pausing.
We're not really even speaking in complete sentences.
Like we're trying to, somebody starts talking, and other ones like they have a point. We're like, oh, maybe we should wait for the other person to finish.
Yeah.
But
hold on. I'll be.
And now we have dead air.
That's okay.
Yeah. Hopefully we can start editing these things. We'll do it in post.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you play a lot of like Heroes? I see. Like Heroes of the Storm?
Actually, I could. Where is it? Screen share. Oh, it is a share, and then we'll play right now.
Nice. So why do you like that one over like LOL or Dota?
I never really could get into Dota or Han too much. I think it was just.
Don't let anybody say my wife isn't good. I was like, can you not watch Netflix right now?
Wow.
Nice.
Doghouse.
Too complex, and I like Heroes though because it's not very complex.
Yeah.
They've taken a lot of the stuff where it's mindless, like you have to farm the creeps and buy the right items. Now it's all focused on map objectives and doing stuff as a team. You still have the talents that'll change your character build per game, but
now we're talking about video games now.
Oh yeah, but
I mean, to be honest, that's kind of what I was doing when I was at Masters. So,
what, video games?
Yeah.
Is that what you guys are talking about while I was gone?
Yeah.
So were you in the computer lab when we found out that we could hack Excel to play a Spy Hunter game?
No, I did remember in the computer lab they had a SNES emulator, and that's where I played like Super Metroid and Earthbound. And I actually remember on 9/11, everybody went into the computer lab and wanted to play Warcraft 2. Because we were just like sitting there not doing anything.
We were playing World of Warcraft 2 in the middle of 9/11.
Yeah.
You played World of Warcraft at Masters?
No, it was Warcraft 2. It was just Warcraft 2.
Warcraft 2. Sorry, not World of Warcraft.
No, it was the thing at the 2000 edition of Microsoft Windows. Excel, if you could take you would highlight all the cells from A to MS, and then from 1 to 2000, highlight them all, and like shift right click control like every on that MS 2000 cell.
Right.
You would open up a Spy Hunter game. But
Wow.
there's to go from A to MS is a lot farther than A to or 1 to 2000. It took forever. And then which David was it? The real tall, goofy one.
David Allen.
Yeah, David Allen got the bright idea to put that on all the computers, and it took him forever.
Nice.
So I guess back to our main topic.
Let's steer the conversation
Yeah.
back a little bit to something more serious.
Yeah. I mean, how many of us went to college? Let's start there with like, oh, don't let your kids go to college. They'll become atheists. Atheists.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Your mom goes to college.
Does your job have any effect on that, sitting in all those classes?
Well, yeah. So I it was kind of one of those things where it's like you just go to college, like that's what my parents felt. Like it's just you go,
Yeah.
So I went. I didn't have a major. In fact, I switched it about 5 times. I think it was 5 times I switched it. And now, of course, I'm not doing anything that I actually graduated in. But I did graduate at UCF with a marketing degree. And I encountered pretty much zero of the liberal. I mean, I wasn't taking those classes, right? It was marketing, it's business class. So when I hear a lot about like, the liberal elite in college, I really see it only in social, sociology classes, maybe some politics classes. I really see feedback. Help.
Yeah. Well, I have an English degree, and I took, let's see, one of my history classes, though.
Sorry. On this live stream, I can't understand a word you guys are saying, but I can stream this live stream on my phone and get a clear signal.
Nice. So are we going to have to get really close to our microphones and talk very slowly and enunciate?
Does that help at all?
Probably not.
No, it doesn't help at all. Can you hear is there any feedback right now?
There was a little bit,
not
yeah.
that much. Well, no, one of my history professors made the statement that there was more evidence that Jesus existed than any other person. And then that's all she said. She just asserted that. She's a history professor. She didn't provide any proof. She didn't name any sources.
Than any other person? Like,
yeah.
Like, what about living people? What about people who just died?
I guess maybe in history, like
okay.
And then most critical historians were like, no, it's not anywhere remotely close. There's like these are the instances of Jesus being mentioned. So
right.
Then I had another class was actually literature of the Bible, taught by a very, very flamboyant dude. One of the best professors I ever had. I don't know if you've ever run into Tyson Pugh.
No.
He does a lot of literature stuff, and his favorite stuff is Chaucer.
Okay.
But that was pretty much the only stuff I ran into with religion at school. Yeah. Even with being like a liberal arts.
I didn't have any of that kind of experience because I went to 2 semesters of community. Well, I think I only went to 1 semester of community college before I ended up joining the military.
I sat in somebody's anthropology class for about half a semester. That was interesting. They really didn't say much about religion at all, but they just like, this is what they dug up in the middle of Africa.
Right.
Dug this up in the middle of New Guinea and whatnot.
Yeah, it was so cool.
Would you still call yourself a Christian?
Yes. I think that if someone was to do a deep dive as to what I believed, most people would say, "Yeah, you're probably not a Christian." But as it was kind of the central moral compass for me, I'm not at a point where I can throw it all away, and maybe that's a bit too. I'm not saying that if you're an atheist or whatever that you would have to throw everything in the Bible away, but at least for me, it works. And I think one of my big issues is that if you're a dick, you're probably not doing
Doesn't matter what you believe. If you're a dick, you're a failure as a human.
Yeah, kinda. And so when I see a whole lot of dicks out there who are saying stuff on behalf of Christianity or whatever, that's kind of where my faith is somewhat shaken, where it's like, maybe this isn't where I should still call myself. I mean, I don't go to church anymore. I don't participate in any sort of Christian activities or anything like that. But that's where I'm not going to, I don't think I'm ready to go full-blown atheist at this point.
So you said you use it kind of as your moral compass.
Right. I mean, you could ask me if you think that's
I had a good point.
Okay.
And then I got sidetracked on something else, and then I'm coming back to this, and I'm like, but so what part of it is your moral compass? Do you do a literal interpretation of stuff, or do you do a more metaphorical?
Right. So I remember doing this class that was kind of Judaic studies. And the main takeaway that I learned is that the Jews kind of view the Old Testament as it's symbolic, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, like we have evidence to know how long the Earth has been around. Okay, we don't have to go to, was there a flood? Maybe there was a flood in that region. I don't know. What does it matter, right?
So this was a class at UCF?
Yeah.
And was it on ancient Judaism or current Judeo?
Okay. Well, yeah, ancient Judaism. They would go through the Old Testament, basically.
Because I know there's a lot of. We'll sidetrack that later. Continue, please.
Yeah. So
Sorry.
when I talking about like my morality, I give a lot of credit to my mom who was like, if a Christian's doing this, is it something that can be kind of reinforced by the Bible? And most of the time, if I'm questioning it, it really can't. And that's where I kind of am at. I mean, I view Jesus as guy who looked out for the poor, guy who used harsh language to describe the people who are not poor, not homeless, not sinful, but the people who had all the laws, had everything, and were abusing that power, right? Like
yeah.
So that's where I kind of draw my spirituality from, in a sense.
Jordan's going to be on a little of a delay here.
That's okay.
Jordan, I will randomly get attached.
I'm more of a bystander. I'm more of a bystander in this conversation.
He and I will throw Bible verses around occasionally and try to talk about stuff.
So I'm gonna have to back together.
Yeah. It's like on your ancient Judaism thing. It was kind of funny because one of the recent verses I threw at Jordan was in Luke, where Jesus is getting on to the Pharisees for not following the law. And the specific law that he states was the one where you kill a disobedient child.
Right.
But
do you remember where that was?
Which reference are we talking about?
Yeah, hold on. I got another. There we go. Now I can have Facebook up here and pull up the. Where's our conversation? Yay, dead air.
I mean, I
guess I need to turn my camera off because my computer can't handle it. Which reference were we talking about?
It was one where. So Jordan now has a sign in his house that says, "Wash your hands and say your prayers because Jesus and germs are everywhere."
Jesus and germs are everywhere.
So I guess we can. Jordan thought that was a little creepy, and me as like an English person was picking at why it would be creepy. Because normally when you say your prayers, it's meant in one of two ways. But then it says Jesus is everywhere. It kind of gives it definitely more towards the insidious meaning.
Yeah.
But then I told Jordan to tack on the verse where Jesus didn't wash his hands going to dinner.
Well, why would he? I mean, it's not like he can get sick, right? It's good to go. That was sarcasm. I'm just.
I know, but let me see. It was pull up this.
Are you trying to look up those verses from Luke you were telling me about?
That was Luke 11. Bible Gateway. Yay. What translate? Do NIV.
NIV, huh?
Yeah, but he said. It might have been Matthew.
Luke 11. It
was either Luke or Matthew.
Something about a fish, and you give him a snake instead, right?
No.
You shouldn't give people snakes.
Did you ever memorize that section?
No, they never actually did Luke. They never actually did poison on Luke. Luke and Revelation.
They never did. Yeah, Revelation. I was about to say that. Yeah, too weird and too long, I think is what Matt told me once.
Too weird and too long.
What?
Which one was too long and which one was too weird?
I think Luke had like several 60+ verse chapters.
Yeah, Luke and Matthew are both ridiculously long.
I did Matthew. My heyday one was John and Acts.
John and Galatians, Ephesians, and Philippians.
Yeah. I'm kind of interested to go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm kind of interested to hear like your kind of takeaway doing quizzing. Did you feel like because I when I was quizzing there were a couple things because they were always like you're gonna keep these words.
Maybe you would have typed the question
forever. Oh yeah, I should just do that. They would say something like, if you keep these words in your heart, they'll never go away. And for me, it was always about like competition. Like,
yeah,
like I was like, no, I would remember kind of the themes of the verses, but for me, it was like that. The competition was the reason I did it, and it'd be interesting to hear. Like, because I know a lot of people who do quizzing are very conservative. I don't know if they stick in that.
Well, that was kind of my thing, just with religion in general. most of the people in my social circles were really conservative, and we grew up conservative, and our mom's kind of like a Pat Robertson. Not so much anymore, and probably not very much when she was, but she used to watch the 700 Club.
Okay.
But it's funny because she will. I mean, there like everybody gets kind of like a pet verse. She would always tell us to be good stewards of the earth. It's our home. We got to take care of it, and that's how I ended up a hippie. You got to keep Mother Earth clean.
That's a really good example, right? Like I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's like a good verse. It's I didn't do that. I don't know why that is being juxtaposed by modern day Christianity.
Yeah, and that was to go back to college.
You can find good things.
In my literature of the Bible class, that was generally what we focused on, was the words, the writing styles, the genre of just writing the Bible. And part of it was also hilarious. We did the modern interpretations of the Bible, which we got to watch a lot of religious movies. So we do group presentations on like the Prince of Egypt and
for quizzing, I don't know. Hopefully, I'm getting the gist of your question. But like I said, I did it for the competition, or at least kept doing it for the competition because it was a lot of fun. Not sure why I started it, but when I was in it, it was nice to memorize those things because you'd come back and you wouldn't be able to go fod beaven, but that's forward odd backward even for you lay people, Ian. But you'd be able to say, well, no, somewhere in chapter 8, Jesus was in chapter 8 of John, Jesus prayed for his disciples, and we could summarize that. And to be able to do that was a pretty powerful thing when you're in that community.
Yeah.
And there are still, when it comes to Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, Philemon, and John, I can probably get you to that. Still to this day, I can kind of get the gist of it. I mean, as far as staying with us for our whole lives, I think it does, but I don't think it has the same meaning anymore. I don't take it as, no pun intended, but don't take it as gospel anymore.
Wow.
It's probably, as a whole, society is developing a poor memory, though, because we don't have to do that anymore. We can just, Google. Hey, I don't even need to Google. Let me just open up a website and search them. But, yeah, I ended up...
It's called the Google Mind.
Yeah, the hive mind. But I ended up leaving because I changed my beliefs politically, and it was just a hassle being around people who were like, no, you need to be this flavor conservative because that's the way Jesus would want you to be.
Right.
It's like they tie all these things together. And at that point, it's not, they can't make up their mind about stuff. They have to believe what they're told. It's like you have to, and you can't be your own person. You have to subscribe to this belief system every which way. I found the verse. So, what does it sound like Jesus is saying to you when this is a similar passage to the Luke one where Jesus doesn't wash his hands.
Okay.
But some Pharisees and teachers of the law came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They don't wash their hands before they eat." And Jesus replies, "Why do you break the command of God for the sake of your tradition? For God said, 'Honor your father and mother,' and anyone who curses their father and mother is to be put to death." So he says you're breaking the tradition, and the tradition is anybody who curses a mother and father is supposed to be put to death. So this was what sparked it, was like the ancient Judaism, like they weren't following stuff literally anymore. It's like they were told to kill people, and they weren't killing people anymore.
Right.
I don't think it was any kind of verse for me. I think Thomas Paine had more
I
effect
still have
on
to
just
read Thomas Paine
as a whole. His argument, YouTube guys like R and Rob made the same thing of book And the fact that it's written in a non-universal language is just a poor way to communicate.
Have you done any? You've gone restart. So you've gone to a lot of classes. Have you done any reading outside of that? Like you said, was it Socrates? I Know Nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I grab bits and pieces where I can. I don't have a specific. I'm actually kind of trying to compile when it all turned for me. I think it was just a lot of different small things. And I think it does tie into politics for me as well, because it was like, I'm like, why are we like so? Why are we as Christians so apologetic for big business? Why do we hate the government? Like these, there are things that I think in a vacuum you can be like, okay, maybe you want small government. Okay,
Yeah.
I guess you can make an argument for that, whatever. But why is it tied to your faith? And then again, for me, as far as the spiritual stuff, I would be in classes. I was in a human species class that basically talked about evolution and how we evolved. And the professor's like, I'm a Catholic. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe. I'm just telling you this is the data. This is the science behind it. And I guess that's where I had to make a decision is my faith really going to be like, I have to believe in a literal interpretation of what this is?
Yeah.
And do I put all my eggs in that basket? And that's a slippery slope for me, because it's like, am I just going to keep denying science as more science comes out that contradicts, not even contradicts, it contradicts a literal interpretation of the Bible, but more specifically, it contradicts this weird message that I think is very common in evangelical circles, which is that science is bad, and I couldn't reconcile to that. So I found it very freeing to be like, why don't you stay in your lane, right? talk about religion and the great things, and be that example to the world and whatever, help people, and maybe you don't have an authority on history and science, and why is your faith so important? Why is it so important to your faith that we have 6 days of creation? It shouldn't matter.
So
I agree, and I think that's where when you compare like an old Earth and young Earth creationist, is they both of them have different varying levels of how important it is.
Right.
The young Earth, obviously, it has to be 6 days, or you can just throw out everything else. There's somebody all the way from young Earth to theistic evolutionist, and then everywhere in between, every little step. And you can get in where you fit in, I guess. And if it doesn't, there's plenty of people that believe in evolution and believe in God. It doesn't seem to be an issue for a lot.
I mean, that's kind of where I am as well, where I guess I would fall under theistic evolution. I wouldn't say that evolution is, I mean, if that's how God wants to create our life, I mean, we have the science to prove it. I mean, I'm not going to I'm not going to deny that for whatever reason.
What church did you go to? What kind of church? You don't have to name a particular church.
Sure. I went to a church. It's a Christian Missionary Alliance church, which is a small denomination, kind of like Baptist, but they're not as strict as like a Southern Baptist church, and they're not. And I never really had that super strict conservative background upbringing.
I did go to a Baptist church for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Obama was president, and it's a Southern Baptist church full of a bunch of white people.
Nice.
And the preacher, pastor, whatever, reverend's like, props to him, though. He's like, he's my leader. I gotta support him. So I gotta make sure he makes, do it. Pay my taxes. Do this. Pray he makes good decisions. I'm not gonna say anything bad about him. But
I mean, that's pretty gracious. I mean, considering now where, anything that our current president touches is terrible. I mean, I think the right thing to do is outright condemn him. So, it's like...
I mean, for a person, a leader, it's a little tricky. They really can't say much because they need to let people weigh the evidence and make their own decisions on that. But it's like, I don't understand how people's certain religious groups have their dicks so hard for Trump. And he's like the antithesis to every good thing Christianity promotes.
Yeah, for sure. I actually found an interesting article that was basically essentially saying that Trump doesn't really stand for anything, that he's essentially a narcissist.
Oh yeah.
And that what he chases is popularity. And so he throws people under the bus when he can do that.
Oh yeah.
No. He's not a conservative. He's not anything but just a blowhard narcissist.
And I'm not sure how much of a reliable source it was. And even if they made a claim and I didn't go check it. But apparently Trump belongs to a prosperity gospel church.
And the fact that he belongs to any sort of church is kind of shocking.
Yeah. Jordan and I were in South Seminole. And it was a non-denominational, and I had somebody ask, what the hell is that? I'm like, well, we didn't. Have you looked up any of this, Jordan? Like what kind of convention the non-denominational church belongs to?
I haven't given it much thought.
Yeah, me either. It was like we're on the topic, but like we're pretty similar to like the Southern Baptist, the Evangelical, and I talked to Jordan a little bit. I don't know if you know who Kent Hovind is. Dr. Dino.
Oh, yeah, God. Yeah, okay. I know who that is.
I was trying to... We had somebody like him come to our church, and I was trying to figure out if it was him and or not, but it was somebody similar to him. But yeah, we had a lot of this stuff where it was... You can't think this... You can't think too hard. You can't... The science is almost evil.
Yeah.
Pain in the butt. And then what my thing was, like, they were so like anti-science that as I got older and discovered the internet, I'm like, I felt like I'd been lied to and purposefully deceived and possibly hindered in being a better person or a better whatever I'm going to do with my life.
See, and that's a really interesting point, because it's like I don't think they were. This is kind of weird. I don't know if they were purposely deceiving. I mean, if you genuinely believe something, and if you genuinely believe that someone's eternal soul is on the line, then wouldn't you do anything in your power to make sure that that person is safe and living the straight and narrow and stuff like that? You would. I mean, that the ends justify the means in that case.
Yeah, pragmatism, but that leads to terrible things in a lot of cases.
I'm not making an excuse for it. I'm just like...
No, I understand. But like, I started school...
Yeah, do you remember stuff like that?
Go ahead.
At Masters, like, I'm trying to think of one teacher, Mr. I think it's Herzig.
Sounds familiar.
And I remember him... Yeah, we were in the Bible class with him, and I remember him specifically saying to... one of the girls in the class, I'll avoid saying her name, but anxiety issues, and he flat out told her that it's not a mental thing, it's almost a sin thing. That
what is
that anxiety and depression it's not a medical issue, it's all a spiritual issue.
Yikes.
And thinking back on that, it's like that seems pretty harmful.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think
you went to Masters longer than any of us.
Yeah.
Are there any things? And things that you remember that you think back now and you're like, well, man, that maybe I shouldn't have. Or
Yeah, that's not just harmful. That's almost evil,
Yeah.
right? You can't be like, oh yeah, you got your arm chopped off. Guess you just didn't pray hard enough. You know, like that's evil. And I remember the big issue for me at Masters was the anti-sex and pro-abstinence kind of bullshit that they would push. That was basically this idea of you have to stay celibate for marriage, and they would associate all these negative things with sex, and it was a message really not even aimed at us guys. I mean, that was a very gendered message for women, or for girls. And guarding your hearts, dressing, modestly so as not to tempt guys. I mean, they do a number on the psyches of us as children, but specifically young women.
I don't remember anything. I was only at Masters for 1 year, but I remember a lot of places. Like we would go to CIY up in Tennessee, Jordan,
mm-hmm.
and then they would have speakers and groups, and they had most of the messages about being promiscuous were pretty much women who, like, oh, a piece of her heart. Every dude she slept with, she left a piece of her heart with them, and she had.
And the end goal is so you don't have sex until marriage. Like, that's the end goal. I don't know.
But and then you have the 2-year-old's favorite question. But why? Do the Ryan Reynolds pull a master? But why?
I think there are answers to that, but I don't know what they are.
So
that's an honest answer right there.
Yeah. So how long were you at Masters?
I started going there in 6th grade, and I graduated. Yeah.
Okay, so I used to be a substitute teacher for a little bit, and then I would go to some of the schools, and they would say to me, oh, we're sorry you had to be here today. They have to have the talk today. So you don't have to answer any questions and they told me you don't have to answer any questions you don't want to. So like, I can tell these kids anything I want. You're giving me way too much authority here. It was like they'd pop in the video about puberty. You probably were not there for that. That would have been interesting. But who was the biology teacher who played guitar or whatever and did the scuba diving? The real young guy.
Anderson or something.
How were those classes?
Anderson?
Yeah.
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah, I remember. I was talking to Heather about it. We watched. We were in marine biology. We watched. He put on the movie Stand By Me, which is a rated R film, but it's about like these kids cussing and finding a dead body. And I remember he was in like FU senioritis mode where he just didn't care. He was leaving after that semester.
Where did he go after that?
I have no idea. But he was a pretty cool guy.
I mean, he seemed pretty cool.
He also did our survey of the Old Testament class too that year.
I had government with Mr. Cobb, but I don't remember anything in particular. The only thing that was really just uber religious, and not even all that religious, was Dr. Lowry's first period Bible class, and he would let us write in all sorts of questions, and I would get him sidetracked on Kansas and the Dust in the Wind and all that. I would just ask him questions about classic rock and get him sidetracked.
Nice.
But we went to another Christian school called Downey. I remember one of our teachers, his name was Mr. Duke. He picked on the little girls quite a bit, and there was like not like the abstinence only stuff. He just picked on them. There's rumors of him being a pedophile. I'll believe it.
We saw his mug on
Oh, we did.
Though it wasn't a rumor, we saw his mugshot on TV watching it.
Nice.
Yeah.
He might have also been related to David Duke of KKK fame.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a last name, so it could be a very distant relation.
We're all somewhere between 50th and like 60th cousins. At the,
Oh yeah, no,
the
you
most.
go back far enough, we're all related.
Nice.
I was reading something like you go back like 16 generations, and Obama and George Bush are related.
Wow.
We talked about what? Morality, schooling, philosophy. You're reading. I know I asked if you read anything, but did you?
I do have one book I can talk about real quick.
Or we'll broaden it to, has anything like pop culturally like changed your perspective on a lot of stuff? Because I read Vonnegut, and he changed my perspective on a lot of things. Which I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, because he's a grumpy, curmudgeonly old Luddite. He hated technology, and was anything evil in his books was blamed on technology and pulling the humanity away from being a family to being a large, spread out, just machine lovers.
But isn't it nice though that you can kind of see their blind spots, and so you can kind of know how to assess them?
I mean, even when he was wrong, he still made good points and wrote really well. So it's like he was always a treat to read. But so what were you going to say? What do you have one book?
I got to give credit to my father-in-law who found this book. It was called The Myth of Certainty, and it's a Christian book. But basically, it was basically like we as Christians have to seemingly have to be very certain with our answers. That you need your Sunday school answer, and if the answer is I don't know, or maybe it's impossible to know, that scares Christians. And it really helped me kind of feel some sort of camaraderie at that time. I read it maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But it helped me a lot during that time, because I was able to feel like it was okay to not have all the answers. And this, of course, kind of flew in the face of the Christians that I interacted with, my upbringing in a way.
Well,
but it helped because it's okay to not know things.
Yeah. As a former question, I would think most Christians would ask you, well, why don't you know the answer? All the answers to everything's on the Bible. How are you uncertain about stuff?
Right. Yeah. I mean, what can you say to that?
What would you say to that?
They've already made their decision. Well, okay, so
as more of a what did you pull in response to that from the book about the myth of certainty?
Sure, they're afraid. That's basically it. That they're
scary
afraid.
that you don't know if you're not used to saying it.
Yeah, I mean, there are contradictions in the Bible. They exist. Now, some of them can be explained away, but some of them can't. And
what's funny though?
Just brave face on. That does not get rid of the fear.
You familiar with Ken Ham?
Yeah.
Bodie Hodge?
No.
Bodie Hodge is Ken Ham's son-in-law.
Okay.
But he also does a bunch of stuff for them and writes books. And I read 2 of his books called Supposed Bible Contradictions 1 and 2.
Okay.
And he, at least put it this way, thinks that he resolved all the contradictions, but some of the contradictions that they put in there, and I think one of the stories in particular was either he met somebody or he knew somebody who met somebody. We're getting second and third, removed from this, from the author. but they were like, their faith was shaken about this contradiction about the number of cattle in Egypt for the plagues. And then they do some gymnastics to line it all up. And I'm like, I've read some crazy sci-fi books, and I've watched you do some mental gymnastics in these two books, but that right there is just a game-breaking bug. That pulls me out of everything you're trying to do. Like some of the stuff they focus on is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think that's them like scurrying, trying to cover up what I think is their fear of the unknown, and so they make all these weird like we would do this when I still went to church. You know, my wife went to church with me. My wife is much smarter than I am, and she would have really good questions, and they would always brush it under the rug. They'd be like, "Well,
Yeah.
you know, Jesus, you know," there was never a thoughtful answer, and there was never a time where it was like, you know what, that's interesting. Let me think about that. It was always a brush it under the rug. Let's not think about that. You're missing the point. Why are you even asking questions? What's wrong with your faith? You know, it was insane.
We had it wasn't Kent Hovind, but there was somebody else who came to the church and was talking about I remember one of the things that he said was either I'm putting the paraphrase of the Hitchhiker's Guide, the standard repository of all knowledge.
Right.
UC Berkeley. Like he was picking on all the stuff that was UC Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one guy in our church who was always asking him, like, how do you guys know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? How do you know that? The guy's like, well, we can measure this, do that, and the other. And like, I don't know. But yeah, it was like they were just, and anybody who, and I can't remember if he was like trying to get him to elaborate or was trying to get him, like, was questioning him like really intently, like you just like, yeah, brushing under the rug.
Right. Yeah, I get it in a sense that, you know, there are some things that are very obvious things, like, you know, climate change, and then you have people kind of rushing in and saying like, well, give me evidence. It's like, dude, just do the, you know, you can Google it, just figure it out. Like, but I think that it goes beyond that when it comes to kind of the Christian Science, where the evidence isn't really, it's spurious at best, and it's one of those things where, again, like I said, stay in your lane, right?
Yeah.
Like what does Christ call you to do in the Bible? Does he call you to be an expert on history and science, or does he call you to take in the poor, you know, help those who need help, be a light, and why are we going down this other path?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. With if it has to be 100% correct and it has to be 100% accurate in history and science, you're going to appease the people that already believe, push away the people that are on the fence, and you're never going to get anybody to come in because we have the internet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it puts up this wall that goes against the Great Commission of reaching out. I mean, of course, they built a $100 million replica of Noah's Ark. But it's atheists going there to make fun of it, and then Christians who already believe it. Those pretty much seem to be the only people who go there.
Right.
Little kids.
And kids. So the numbers are only replenished because kids are growing up in it. But as they grow up with the internet, more and more are pushed out because of that strict mindset. And part of that had to do with my deconversion, but I don't think it was specifically young earth creationism, but I think it's a detrimental mindset.
What was kind of the catalyst for your deconversion, Jordan?
Say that again?
What was the catalyst for your deconversion?
there's a lot of little things.
Yeah.
If I had to describe it, I started out, when we went to masters and we took, I think it was the same teacher, Herzig, that we had this book. It was supposed to be a semester book that spent 90% of its time on the first 6 chapters of Genesis, talking about how dinosaurs were in the Bible and all this other stuff. And then it brushed through the other 50 chapters of Genesis in one chapter of this book. But I was okay with that back then.
Right.
I had to do one intro to biology class, found it interesting enough, started exploring human evolution and all that. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So I went from young Earth creationism to old Earth creationism, and then onto that, I found so many odd things. Like one of the oddest things that probably the best known young Earth creationism is reasons to believe, and they started talking about ancestors. They were just like servants, and they were soul-ish. Like that's their term for it, soul-ish, soulish creatures, but they didn't have souls. And things just got really weird trying to blend the obviousness of a 4 billion year old Earth, but deny evolution at the same time. They just spun themselves in circles. So I went to theistic evolution, and eventually, I think just enough YouTube videos later, it's like I just can't. I became okay with I don't know.
Right.
And obviously, I'd hold the weak atheist position of I'm not going to say there isn't a God. I just don't know, and there's no evidence is convincing me right now.
Is that agnostic, or is that atheist?
Yeah, it could be.
There are terms.
I'll take this one.
I mean, some people have different. Some people would say, like Matt Dillahunty would say, agnostic is a claim to knowledge, while atheism is a claim to a belief or something to that effect. But
some people would say that atheism is you're not convinced there is a God. So if you don't know, you're an atheist until you can find out that there is.
That's the position I hold. Is I'm not convinced. I don't hold a God belief, so I'm an atheist. But I don't know that you could actually know. So I guess that would make me agnostic as well.
Are they supposed to be juxtaposed at all? The atheism and agnosticism?
I think they can be. There's so much intermingling that there's a lot of people on. You could have a whole conversation on just the difference or the molding of those two words.
Like if you think of a Venn diagram, the circles overlap quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I just became okay with saying atheist. It just became But it's just easier, I feel like, most of the time, even though it does have a negative connotation.
I mean, there are people that, like, agnostic would hold a connotation of still holding on to some sort of belief structure or religious structure. But there are some people, Robert Price is one guy. He considers himself a Christian atheist, and I can't remember the Muslim guy, but he considers himself a Muslim atheist. And especially when his book came out, titled Muslim Atheist, people were like, you can't be Muslim and atheist, and that was what his whole book was about. But
right. Well, I mean, but I mean, lifestyle, culture.
Yeah.
You know, we mean not everybody. I mean, Judaism is kind of an example of that. You can both convert to Judaism and have that as beliefs, but you can also grow up Jewish but not religious. So there's I think some complexity.
That I think would be that problem there comes from a little bit of conflating the ethnic group and their religion. So you could have people who are of Jewish descent who have no formal Jewish religious affiliation at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is that Jew is interchangeable for religious and ethnic group.
That's true. That's actually a good point. So,
But there are people who would consider like they have some Jewish heritage. Some of their Jewish heritage is tied to their religion. So even if they are like no formal religious affiliation, they're still going to do a few things differently than other people because their religion had an influence on them. But
right.
I wouldn't know what those are. But for us, like if we're, Christianity was a huge influence on our culture, we're still going to try to do something on Sunday. Really, like I like taking things really easy on Sunday. Acoustic music has its place on Sunday.
Yeah, sure.
You can still have celebrate Christmas. It just ends up becoming more of a family tradition, focusing on like generosity and things like of that nature.
Right.
I'm gonna ask something else. So, did you see the Pope's tweet, more or less, of that? Of course, evolution is real. God doesn't have a magic wand.
Oh, the Pope said that?
Yeah. No,
this Pope is like A++, right?
Yeah. There's some things that he said that have been, but I'm like, compared to the last few, yeah, he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
See if I can get the. Let me see. Let me try to read just the quotes from the, not quote mine. When we read about creation in Genesis, we run the risk of imagining God was a magician with a magic wand able to do everything, but that is not so. Pardon me. God created human beings and let them develop according to the internal laws that he gave to each one so they would reach their fulfillment. Evolution in nature is not inconsistent with the notion of creation because evolution requires the creations of beings that evolve, which he's probably more accurate in his description of evolution than like people like Kent Hovind are, because evolution isn't about the origin of life. It's about how things have become diverse and
Exactly.
grew in environmental pressures. Yada, yada, yada. Notable departure from Benedict XVI and his close advisors who voiced support for the idea that intelligent design underpins evolution. The rest, that's all.
Yeah, I wasn't very convinced by intelligent design, and that runs strong in my in-laws side of the family. The books have been written on that side of the family about it.
So let's take this back to Masters a little bit. Jordan and I and Eric were homeschooled for a little bit, and our textbooks were from Bob Jones University Press. And they were very, very conservative and very, very anti-science. Or rather, that anything in their thing was nothing in science disproves the word of God. So if anything contradicts it, that science is wrong. So there's no such thing as evolution. It's only adaptation. There's microevolution inside species. You can't break the species barrier. Which, when I was in one of my low-level biology classes, are like, you get 100 different scientists into a room and ask them what a species is, you're going to get 100 different answers. It's not a cut and dry definition of what a species is. But what was
we've been to Bob Jones a few times, right?
Yeah, Bob? Jordan mentioned that too.
Good old Bob Jones. I lost the pen. I had it for years. The 1-800 BJ and me pen from Bob Jones University. That was their recruiting hotline.
I wonder if that's still the case. Can you call that?
Maybe we should call it.
I got it right now. What is it?
BJ and me.
Yeah, 1-800 BJ and me.
If you need a chaperone for one of your dates, you call that number.
least black people can go there now.
Thank you for calling the Bob Jones University Office of Admissions. Our normal business hours are Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Please
That's
call
just too
back
good.
during these hours if you wish to speak to an admissions
That's important.
counselor, or you may press 1 to leave us a message.
So is this thing
Please leave a
sponsored
message
by
after
Bob
the
Jones?
tone. When you are finished, you may hang up or
It
press
is now.
1 for special options.
Hey, Paul.
Who's Paul?
If we're ever gonna get Hans on the show, he will appreciate that.
Yes, I know he went at least once.
Lim J.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I think I considered going to Bob Jones or Pensacola for school. I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, think of the damage that could be done there.
and you can't leave; they're not accredited.
Are they
Yeah,
really
no,
not?
no. Bob Jones might be, but Pensacola is not at all. And most of the graduates that will go there, or most of the graduates from there, either work at the school or at churches. And then,
Yeah,
I
Bob
was
Jones wasn't last time I checked, but it's been a decade, so
yeah.
it could be now.
And the article I read was a couple years old, so it might have changed as well. But it was on Cracked, of all places, a comedy website, and they had a long series where they would interview the dregs of society, like drug users and prostitutes and strippers and all sorts of stuff.
And now Pensacola grads.
Well, they would, because and they did a lot of other things too, like people like refugees and survivors of all sorts of atrocities. And the person that they interviewed was fit into that by being somebody who was, like they interviewed people from religious groups like Waco and other places. So partly because they had like this sheltered upbringing, but now they were underserved and they thought they were doing. And there's a lot of shit at Bob Jones and Pensacola that's just not nice. Like literally different colored sidewalks, different gendered sidewalks. Like,
Do you remember the censored board games in the student unions, Jesse?
that's funny.
Right. That is true.
They took Sharpie markers to taboo cards and blocked out certain words.
They would block out words, yeah.
But it's like you have all like. We'll have to get Eric on here to talk about stuff like this, but he went to Florida Christian College, and they had a demerit system. And he and a buddy there would do all sorts of crazy parkour stuff. And I think you got like 8 demerits in a semester, you were expelled. They got 1 demerit for jumping off the 2nd-story balcony.
Okay.
They got at least 2 demerits for watching The Matrix, a rated R movie.
At least it wasn't Matrix Reloaded. There's that Zion sex scene.
Yeah. But it's like
That would've been
they're all
like 10 demerits.
18 years old,
Yeah.
maybe 17 and a half, so for some of them. But like they're all adults. They're legally allowed to watch a rated R movie.
Yeah, but I don't think Masters had much of that stuff, but we were almost pushed to go. We weren't pushed to go there. They wanted everyone to go to college, but all the competition focused around getting to Bob Jones, getting to that national. And Jesse, did you
That's
know
right.
we weren't the only homeschool or Bible quiz region around? I found out this guy on YouTube called Apologia. He went to this New York college for his national championships.
Yeah.
And I had to message him and be like, I thought I was in the running for national championships. I've never heard of that one. He's like, well,
Yeah.
each denomination kind of had their own.
Yeah, they all did. And what was weird about that is like all the rules are kind of like sort of similar, but they would never say the same stuff. They would be in different versions. And it was so funny because like here we were thinking, oh, we're competing for the national championship. And it's like it's like, but who decides that, right?
At least it wasn't a world championship that only had one country represented.
That's
Yeah,
true.
my bubble was burst just recently.
That sucks. Yeah, but to be honest though, those Bob Jones strips, it was kind of like it's kind of like fun just to go see like the other side, see the dark side of what Christianity was, where it's like this is what happens when you take it to like the extreme.
Well, yeah,
Right.
like when I'd go visit Eric at FCC, if we had any female friends, we weren't allowed in their dorms, like,
Right.
and they, like, ever,
Yeah.
like,
I
you
mean,
couldn't, no, but you couldn't have, like, they were like
And then
apartment style.
we actually had a
dorms.
quiz.
You couldn't have,
competition for long hair.
huh?
We had a quizzer expelled because his hair was too long.
Yeah, it was funny when I first went over there and met Eric's roommates. I had my beard and my long hair, and I had a bunch of frozen pizzas with me. And Eric was out with Kareem doing something, but I went to his dorm, unloaded the stuff, and his roommate looks up, sees Jesus came back, and he brought pizza.
Well, I think we would be remiss if in this first Academy of Talks we did not, in this room with us, in this chat room, your face graces, I think, what, our junior year?
Eric,
Or
no,
senior
Eric
year.
does. He had the mutton chops. Yeah, the basketball.
No, but your face is in the I think it's
Oh, the
junior, our
yearbook.
junior or senior, the
Yeah.
yearbook.
Yeah,
You literally are Jesus on
Yeah.
the Masters Academy yearbook one year.
I remember that.
How did that make you feel? Did you feel special?
I just a nickname. I used to work at one car wash. It's funny that I've been bringing this up a lot recently. I'm surprised that place is still in business, but I had people would just call me Jesus because I had the long hair, the beard, and they forgot what my real name was.
Bring in bread and fish and stuff. Right?
So
No multiplying food, I guess.
No.
do we want to talk about like family stuff? Like I know we haven't brought your wife in, and she's like, don't tell anybody yet.
Well, yeah. I mean, my wife.
Well, let's
Sure.
not talk about people who aren't here. So, what would your family think about this? I guess. Does your family know that you I'm not doing this anymore?
Well, they know I don't go to church.
And I guess maybe politics too. How do they feel about your politics?
Yeah.
Or do they agree with you?
Well, okay. So, okay. Let's start with the politics first. So, all throughout
No one ever. This might be the first time someone said, "Let's talk politics" instead.
politics is fun, man. It's never been so cut and dry. No, when I was when the primaries were going on, everybody was like, "Oh, what the hell is this Trump guy? He's like this super asshole." I mean, we knew Trump because we watched The Apprentice, but like we were all like completely disgusted. And then he wins the primary, and my parents then get kind of quiet, right? Like they're not like I get that they might feel like maybe I have to vote for him, and maybe it's the right thing, because he's the Republican candidate. I think there is a difference though between people who are there's a big difference between people who voted for Trump and people who support Trump. And the people who vote for Trump. Yeah, go ahead.
I would agree. I think some people are just a lot of people got very quiet after the primaries.
Right. And I get okay, so if you're all in on abortion and pro-life and stuff, you've kind of already made up your mind in a way. If that's your single issue, if your single issue is lower taxes, I guess, I don't know. Then, or maybe you just feel like the way the country is going, if you feel morally like it's going in a bad direction, you might not like Trump and you would vote for him. I haven't really followed up with my family all that much since Trump's been elected. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they're kind of disgusted by what's been going on. So,
So
I don't know.
I had somebody.
I would hope so too.
I had somebody say, "Well, I voted for Trump because of jobs and national security." I'm like, and the guy's Twitter account is being used as a declaration of war. How does that make you feel? Like the guy is not good for national security.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate. I did not vote for Trump. I would never vote for Trump. I think he's disgusting. Let me play devil's advocate.
It's great that you have to post it or say it like that, but yeah, I like devil's advocates. Let's go.
But so I think there is a group of people in this country, obviously a large portion of people, because I'm not going to sit here and say that 48% of the voting people are horrific, terrible people. Okay, that's a bit reductionistic, but I am going to say that I think that there are people who felt like they were put by the wayside because of the economy and their buying power is not what they're.
Well, yeah, it's like you were.
And the focus of Democrats, I think there's a lot of blame to be put on Democrats. Speaking as a Democrat, there's a lot of blame to be put on them with this past election because they didn't really talk to Middle America all that much, and so I think that you can rationalize a vote for Trump in theory. Now I would never do that. And certainly now knowing what we know, although I don't think anything he's done this in his term so far has been a surprise, but you could make an argument and say, okay, my purchasing power is not what it used to be, and when he says "Make America Great Again," He says that the way you could interpret it perhaps would be something along the lines of, I want to be able to live a middle-class lifestyle and go on a vacation and not feel like I'm overworked and not feel like I have to worry about my savings falling out from under me. And I think he played on that. I think we were all kind of just, well, not we all, but the people who voted for him were duped in a sense. But I don't begrudge people necessarily for voting for him, although I think that was a terrible mistake. But I think that when coming back to my family, I think that they know that I would imagine they probably voted for him, and I would imagine they're probably not very happy with him.
Yeah, I have no idea if anybody in our family voted for him.
That's not bad. It's a lot of votes.
Well, no. Let me see. Zachary wouldn't. Hannah wouldn't. Jared, I don't know. But he's just literally turned 18. Patrick and Logan, I don't know. Eric.
Patrick wouldn't.
I don't know. Our parents, I have no idea. Maybe.
Dad wouldn't. Dad was going to vote Hillary if Trump won. At least that's what he told me last time we talked politics.
I haven't talked politics with Dad ever. Mom, not in a long time. What we're looking for. There we go.
He was very anti-Trump during the primaries, and he said, I'm going to vote Democrat for the first time in my life if he
Speaking of devil's advocate, there's a little cartoon for us. So I know it's not Jesse. Zachary. Jesse likes Bernie Sanders, and he's like 14. I'm like, Jesse, you're too young to. Well, maybe not too young, but I'm like. And then Zachary would talk politics with Mom, and she would just not have any of the stuff that he was saying. I'm like, he's being a little smug bastard, but most of what he's saying is true.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah. So
So you
Jordan, what do you think of all this kneeling stuff going on in the NFL?
Well, you saw the guy about. I know
I-
Jordan did, but you saw the guy with the who burned his Redskin jersey because someone on the Redskins took a knee. Jesse,
I did not see that. I'm not surprised.
okay. Sorry to interrupt, Jordan. Go ahead. Did we lose him?
Buddy.
No, I'm just having technical difficulties. I'm going to have to adjust my little setup here. Little poor setup, but if you were asking my opinion on the flag sitting, standing, kneeling,
Yeah.
it can be boiled down to usually the same people that are saying those things are the same people that will wipe their face with a American flag napkin on 4th of July. They didn't leave the NFL when people were raping and murdering and all this other stuff.
Still are.
High ground. I understand why they're angry, and I get it.
Yeah, I understand too, but they're conflating quite a few things, and they're upset. It was funny. Somebody, Colin from Masters, was like, "They're ruining football." And I commented on something, and he's like, "I don't care." I'm like, well, it seems you care more about football than, you're mad at them for taking a knee, but I'm like, why you don't take a look and ask why they're doing that? It's like, even if so, they are perceiving an injustice. It doesn't matter if the injustice is real or not. If they think it's there and they're protesting it, they have that right to do so. And then, Trump kind of blew the whole thing out of proportion.
Aren't there all these laws that say you can't, wear the flag as clothing?
Yeah. Which I think is kind of dumb, but, I understand, it's supposed to be a symbol, supposed to have some protection, but.
Yeah. I watch a lot of football, and I was really excited to see what was going to happen this weekend, and I was pleasantly surprised by how kind of unified everybody was. And I kind of interpreted it now as more of a protest against Trump than anything else.
Yeah.
That's what it's turned into.
Yeah. Kaepernick's probably laughing his ass off.
Can't get a job, though.
I had a friend who thought that, he decided he wanted to say that, Kaepernick, it's a play on these football players can't protest. They've got millions of dollars. Being rich doesn't invalidate your opinion, just as being rich doesn't give you more of an opinion on an issue than I do, unless you're somehow an expert on said issue. But
if being rich invalidates your position, why are we listening to a billionaire talk about how bad the country is?
Yeah. Well, that's one. Yeah.
But
didn't Uncle Ben say something about great power and responsibility or something like that?
Yeah, but
great power comes great
more
responsibility. I mean, you can take truth from a lot of different things.
Oh yeah, But my friend had the
I think
idea
Spider-Man came out today too.
Yeah,
on
I
video?
haven't seen the new one.
Me either. But Kaepernick didn't protest because he was protesting injustice, because, why is he doing it just now? And he's mixed race, or, of a race, and, apparently it's like he's had everything. He's no prejudice in his life. He's got it good, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. He's just doing that because he sucks, and he can't get a job now. He's trying to create attention. I'm like, yeah, fair point, but it again doesn't invalidate.
I think we could go on that topic all day, but
yeah, it doesn't.
So
just because he's doing it now doesn't mean there wasn't injustice beforehand, or there is no injustice. Doesn't matter when he decided to join the conversation, more or less.
Well, we're getting on about an hour and a half, so
Yeah, we're probably.
it's probably long enough for a first chat. Jesse, it was fun. If you want to do it again, I'm always up. Hopefully, I'll have a better computer set up.
Yeah,
But
for
maybe
sure.
we can actually pick a topic beforehand and discuss it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
Hoping to get more people.
Go ahead.
I'm hoping to get more people from Masters to talk about it, and I appreciate you talking with us.
Yeah, it
Good to
was
catch
a
up
lot
too.
of it was a lot of fun, and I would kind of like to do a little bit, kind of deep dive some of these issues a little bit more, because I think that it's difficult to not. It's such a polarizing topic, and I think that there are a lot of very earnest, good people who are Christians who believe a lot of very harmful and terrible things. And if what we can do is help some people out, at least be like, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
That's kind of my big thing.
Definitely evidence that, having a support group of something is good for people.
Mm-hmm.
People have changed their opinions on gay people because all of a sudden there's gay people everywhere.
Right.
So do we have an idea for next time, Jordan, or are we just going to wing it?
I think he's gone. Buddy?
I think we're going to wing it then. And this is when we have like a 5-minute end credits, because we can't close the video out because Jordan's got it.
Buddy.
I might have to have him give me access to that stuff. I think he can.
Have you done any of these before?
He and I did one where we talked about. We basically gave our Christian credentials and why we're no longer Christian.
What's the name of the
video, the channel?
Yeah, the channel. That's what I said.
Academy Talks.
Yeah, I'm back on. I can close it out, but yeah, I'll send you a link. You got to subscribe to our terrible YouTube channel, and
very terrible.
It's going to be. Hopefully, the technology will improve, and we can get more specific later.
Cool.
Hasta la bye-bye.
Well, say hi to the wifey for me, Jesse, and
Will do.
talk to you guys later.
All right. See you.
Have a good night.